Hey guys, RanterInShades here, exercising my first amendment rights vlog style. Now I know I'm probably late to this party on this Metalgate thing, but it is right up my alley. So on Saturday, I was linked to a video from Sargon of Akkad entitled, "The Problem with Heavy Metal is Metalheads." Now on the surface, that title is very agreeable, considering I've made many videos on this channel claiming particular types of metalheads to be a problem with metal, since it's these guys that make the rest of the metal community look bad. Sargon in his video was basically responding to an article that was portraying metalheads as a group of people that are discriminatory against others. Now again, I can agree with that on principle, considering the metalists I've made countless videos about are in fact people that will discriminate against others, but not for the reasons social justice warriors want you to think. Rather than discriminate against people for their race, gender, or sexual orientation, the kinds of metalheads I'm referring to discriminate against others for not liking the exact music that they do, whether it be for liking Bring Me the Horizon, or for not liking Exodus, or similar scenarios. This is the extent of how metalheads do discriminate against others. That would be the extent of how I would agree with the SJWs. But instead, the article Sargon was responding to turned it into a whole deal of race, gender, and sexual orientation, providing a few examples of how metalheads are racist, sexist, and homophobic, which couldn't be further from the truth. As far as sexual orientation goes, a classic example I like to bring up is Rob Halford of Judas Priest. He's the most well-known gay musician in metal, yet no one seems to bash him for his sexual orientation. Priest's first album, Rock-A-Rolla, came out in 1974, and by the start of the 80s, they were at the top of their game. I don't recall anybody back then making a huge deal out of Halford's sexual orientation, nor do I see anybody making a huge deal out of Doug Pinnick, Otep Shemaya, Paul Masvidal, or Sean Reiner all being gay. The example they provided of metalheads being homophobic was pretty much, oh, they call people gay or faggot, and it doesn't have to do with them being homosexual, it's metalheads are bigots. My first word analysis that I made about the word gay was pretty much conveying this message, because I was picked on and called gay countless times when I was in high school. As of now, I hereby retract that video. This isn't a problem with metalheads, it's a problem with people in general. Those people I referenced earlier that called me gay in high school, none of them were metalheads. And even then, people will always call someone a fag or a faggot if they're behaving like an idiot. It's like in the episode of South Park about the Harley Riders. If people are gonna call you a fag, they aren't saying, oh, he's a homosexual. It's because you're acting like a douche. And if it just so happens that it's a metalhead calling somebody a fag, big fucking coincidence. If metalheads were really homophobic, then why would Rob Halford be so heralded amongst the metal world? Why would the community accept any gay metal musician if they were really homophobic? Exactly. This is not to say that homophobic metalheads don't exist. They do, and they need to fuck off. But to say that all metalheads are homophobic because of these guys, or just because somebody called someone a fag, is a gross overgeneralization. Now moving on to gender. I really shouldn't have to explain this one. Going as far back as 1980, with the first album from the British all-female band Girl School, women were never denied their place in metal. If metal was sexist, then not only would Girl School not be accepted, but neither would Lita Ford, Nightwish, Epica, Vixen, Arch Enemy, Flyleaf, Hailstorm, Evanescence, L7, Kitty, and so many others. If some douchebag metalhead says that he hates women, then that's an issue with him and any other metalhead like him. But to generalize based off that one guy and say that all metalheads hate women is illogical. What examples did these people provide? The music video for The Motherlode by Mastodon, which was totally a serious video. Mastodon are totally sexist pigs because of that video that totally wasn't satirical, right? And the other example being the situation with Tim Lambesis of As I Lay Dying putting a hit out on his wife. Now, while I like As I Lay Dying's music, that was a horrible thing of Lambesis to do. But am I going to say that his actions equate to metal hating women? No. If we're talking about the portrayal of women in metal songs, then yeah, these people might hold some ground. I'm not gonna sit here and act like songs like Girls, Girls, Girls by Motley Crue and others don't portray women in a sexual fashion. but this is glam metal we're talking about. It's a genre that's known for lyrics about sex. I can imagine SJWs being the kinds of people that would complain about Steel Panther for their sexual lyrics, but that would imply that they're actually taking Steel Panther seriously, which the fans and even the band themselves don't do. Do women have a right to be offended by such lyrics? Yes. But is it right to call metal as a whole sexist based off of that? No. If we're talking about women in metal dressing provocatively, then yes, I can agree with that. But then again, they take it upon themselves to dress as such. As far as race goes, again, if these people did their research, they would understand that metal is a global phenomenon. All over the world, there are metal bands reaching audiences, and all over the world, there are fans of metal. We've seen Japanese bands like Loudness and Maximum the Hormone, bands like Black Death and Living Colour being made up of all African Americans, bands like Sepultura and Angra coming from Brazil, and many other acts from all over the world. And let's not forget Zach De La Rocha of Rage Against the Machine, who is Mexican American. And aren't they one of the biggest metal acts of the 90s? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they are. Nobody has this idea that metal is a conservative thing for white men only, let alone straight white men. If they did, why would the metal world be so accepting of all these different kinds of bands? If we're gonna talk about fans, Monday Matt said it perfectly in his video. Go to any big metal show like Ozfest or Mayhem Fest, and you'll see people of all different shapes and forms, and all different backgrounds, being brought together by the power of this thing we call music. They aren't gonna discriminate against you for anything. They're there for the same reason you are, to listen to some goddamn music. This is why I support Metalgate. I'm someone who doesn't even label himself as a metalhead because I don't want to be lumped in with elitist douchebags like the people I've made videos on for almost 2 years. And here I am defending metalheads. Because if ignorance like this is being spread around, you can expect someone like me to call people out on it. What SJWs are doing is blowing up over issues that aren't even really prevalent in metal and turning this into a whole deal of race, gender, and sexual orientation. I saw Blue Magus share Sargon of Akkad's video on Facebook, and I saw a comment there that read as follows. Don't underestimate them. Gamergate started out as something everyone thought would blow over. They'll start forcing bands to conform to their ideology. They'll be forcing through bans on bands who don't fall in line. They'll try to get songs made illegal for violence against women like they did with GTA 5 in Australia. This needs to be taken seriously if you value heavy metal as a form of art and self-expression. They want to ban self-expression and turn everything into their propaganda. Don't let them. If this whole thing treads into territories this extreme, you can expect me to be a lot more vocal about this. Not only do I enjoy making videos about music-related news stories, but we shouldn't let this escalate into a deal of censorship. If news is leaked, if bans enforced on bands from being able to play in certain areas or venues, if songs are banned from being played on certain radio stations, and if videos are being pulled from YouTube, if albums are being banned from being sold in certain stores like GTA was in Australia, all for such trivial reasons, I'll be there to make my voice heard. And I hope you'll join me. I'm Shades, and I'll see you next time.